It's not a cookie or a brittle. It's just bark, a chocolatey caramel romance held together by, wait for it, soda crackers. It's the salty sweet combination that'll win you over again and again. I'm making a batch of chocolate bark, a Wilson family favorite. Now bear with me, I've got a lot going on because we're a big family and one batch is never enough. So let's get going. I've got the broiler on high, 500 and something. Keep that going. Now the secret ingredient, because the Wilsons are sophisticated yet practical people, are crackers, soda crackers, some might call them. Layer them on a cookie sheet lined with tinfoil or parchment. I prefer parchment because if any tinfoil sticks to the bark and you have a filling, you're in trouble. Has that ever happened to you? Mm-hmm. So while you are carefully layering your crackers, make sure the broiler is nice and hot. It's on high. This is a very simple recipe, but the steps have to be precise. Aunt Jude, who I believe is to thank for originally passing this recipe along, I think was a very organized woman, obviously. There you are. Squeeze as much from one sleeve of crackers as you can onto a cookie sheet. Pan on, equal parts butter, clunk. It's not a low-fat recipe. All in moderation. Brown sugar. Let this melt together. Just give it a second to get going. While that happens, chop some nuts. Cashews are my favorite. Jude would definitely have used slivered almonds. Her sister Jan's as well. At Christmas time, why not a little pop of green with pistachios, or even, I don't know, pumpkin seeds. Any kind of seed, looking for just a nice crunch on top. The butter is saying it needs some attention. Okay, what happens here? It seems simple that the two will just melt together, but in fact, the butter separates from the sugar if it's not whisked together. So stay here, hang out with it. I've made a batch of bark with separated sugar and butter back when I didn't know what I was doing, fresh to the family, and it was just a soupy mess. Off the heat and pour your mixture over your soda crackers that definitely have salted tops. Do not make the mistake, like the newly bride I was way back when, of using unsalted tops. Quickly make sure that all of this yummy caramel toffee-like sauce covers all the crackers. Once it's smooth, under the broiler for just a few seconds, long enough to get that molten lava quality once again. It's basically enough time to stand up and then to go back down again. Twice. Oh yes. There are little bubbles happening here. Crying out for some chocolate. Chocolate chips or finely chopped dark chocolate, but definitely not milk chocolate because it's grainy when it melts. It just doesn't spread nicely. Okay. Now I'm not joking when I say just a second under the broiler. Maybe two. Long enough for these little chips to get glossy. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. we are. Okay, smooth the chocolate that's already completely melted. And finish off with your pre-chopped nuts on top. Cranberries would be gorgeous on here. All these little thoughts come into my head. Use the Wilson recipe as a template and then just go wild. Into the freezer goes the bark. Before you slice it, it has to be firm and, almost snappable. I've put my fair share of bark in a snowbank when my freezer was full. Whatever it takes, it just has to be below 0. Now, as the old saying goes, a watch freezer doesn't freeze the bark. So the beauty of making several batches is that while you make one and freeze the other, you don't try to hang out and eat it. This one is all ready now. This is really the best part, because remember when you're little and your mom cuts up the squares and she puts them beautifully on a little tray and lets you eat the edges? Well, slicing bark on the diagonal in a little cross-hatch formation creates some fantastic teeny tiny triangles that the cook gets to eat. Optional to share with your children. Find your favorite little triangle and dig in. To potlucks, to weddings, bark will take you everywhere, and it will always be the highlight of any family gathering. Keep this recipe in your back pocket. Someone is always in need of a soda cracker, chocolate, caramel, nutty wedge of deliciousness. And it freezes beautifully.